Good evening, friends. I'm Deepal from the Vibes of India, and I'm here with you today to discuss an important point. A couple of days back, a young man in his early 20s, Tathya Patel, rammed his Jaguar into a crowd, killing 9 people and injuring 30. As soon as this incident happened, and it is indeed a gory incident, it was raining incessantly in Ahmedabad. As soon as this incident happened, you know, we've had all sorts of people coming up, and including the media, which I'm a part of, focusing on how Nabirao, Paisa Darna Farjando, words like irresponsible, kids of the rich and the famous, they indulge in such sort of behavior. I personally feel that Tathya should not be allowed to go scot-free or even be let out on bail, because it is, such small deeds like letting him out on a bail or a parole, which is usually managed in the Indian parlance, that really makes a tough criminal out of this first time offense doers. So Tathya Patel is just one of the many cases. We've had Vismay Shahs, we have had Labdis, we've had a number of hit and run incidents in Ahmedabad. And every time who has been involved? A rich person's daughter, a rich person's son. So does this absolve Tathya of his responsibility? Absolutely no. Tathya is responsible for his incident. At the same time, who is responsible? I would want to tell you that when Tathya rammed his Jaguar into a crowd, and this is at after 1 in the midnight, there were more than 100 people on the road. What were they doing? There had been a spate of accidents before. A Thar and a dumper had collided, and there were 2 cops also who were trying to mediate, register a police complaint, so a crowd had gathered. Now, when we spend millions of rupees in beautifying the city, in doing up various bridges or decorating buildings with LED lights, why can't we invest in basic things like some neon color traffic stoppers that we can put up at every place when there is an accident, so that the area gets absolutely cordoned off and nobody can enter that premise? Such small things are also important, but that is not the crux of what I want to tell you today. Today, what I want to tell you is that Tathya Patel is responsible for his crime and he should pay for it in the most stringent manner. But who are equally responsible for this are his parents. This is the case almost always. With an unfailing regularity, of late we have been seeing this culture of parents who have really slogged their lives, now giving a very much entitled life to their kids. This is what is creating characters like Tathya Patel. There are Tathya Patels, several of them around us, just for the basic reason that the parents have not given them a good upbringing. A good upbringing does not necessarily mean that every time you see an older, unke pair chuo. A good upbringing does not mean that, you don't drink in front of your father. A good upbringing does not mean that a daughter does not speak out her mind or argue in front of her father. These are all normal behaviors, everything at the right age. But what a good upbringing is to inculcate a sense of responsibility. Unfortunately, in Gujarat, as all of us have marked, there has been too much of easy money. The land bank in Ahmedabad is enormous. The number of developers, the pseudo-rich, the neo-rich, and their money and their acquisitions, these are all very scary things. This is a generation for whom money has come in very easily. Their parents or their grandparents could have slogged, but this is a generation for whom, if they need a watch, it has to be Rolex. If they need a car, it has to be a Range Rover. If they want a holiday, it has to be Europe. This is the entitled generation that is the crux of problem in everything and happening and yet to happen in Ahmedabad. This is the generation that does not realize that being rich is not wrong. Being rich is not being a moron. Being rich could mean that you could be kind, you could be compassionate, you could be a real good team player, you get access and exposure to places and people others cannot even dream of. But unfortunately, there is some lapse in raising these kids. Let us talk of a few examples. If you know that your son is dud at math, but he loves to doodle, but you are a high-profile doctor, so you ensure that you pay a huge capitation fee and you enroll your son into a medical college that, is okay in twisting a few rules here and there. So on this capitation fee or donation fee, you educate your son, he becomes a doctor and he becomes a custodian of your multi-million hospital. But have you ever given a thought to those several patients will come to your hospital because it had your name and it had your sweat and blood, but it is going to be your uninterested son educated in a donation college who is going to, be your successor. We talk and we often complain of dynasty. If dynasty in politics is such a bad thing, why is dynasty in medicine not a bad thing? Why is dynasty in business not a bad thing? If dynasty is bad, and I don't say that dynasty is bad, I feel that dynasty is okay when it comes to, say, Bollywood, or even when it comes to, say, politics, because people are going to give their verdict very clearly. But if I'm going to go to a doctor who's not gone to a regular college, whose father has paid money, and who's educated himself in a very below average college, how am I going to trust my leg or my lung with such an inefficient doctor? So what I'm trying to say is, please, just because you are rich, just because you have power, don't misuse it. Okay? Your money is your money. Your children are going to inherit it. But please, teach them the basics of what good money is, what good money is not. The benefits of money are severe. But being a moron is not one of them. If you have a daughter and, she aspires to open up the best designer shop in town, okay, it's fine, it's a great idea. But you need to recall that the last time you put her in a designer school, she was alleged to be a copycat. She had copied several other students' designs and she had created a stir and was a cause of major embarrassment. Well, this means that your daughter has not been raised well. Your child, whether it's a boy or a girl, need to be kept away from entitlements. Let them realize, let them understand that working hard, working honestly, being honest to yourself, being sincere, is not sort of some middle class moral science session. That's the reality of life. The rich parents, like as we say, charity begins from home. Good parenthood, raising good kids, all begins from home. It does not begin from grooming schools or some sanskar dams. Parents have to put in that their efforts. And it's not a major concern, because raising good kids is not some sort of a highly unattainable task. It's basically really simple. What rich parents need to tell their kids, I would want to sum it up in just 3 lines. Number one, do not give everything that your kid, your young son, or your young daughter asks for. Do not give whatever they want. Number two, once they grow, you know once once your child completes some basic education, send them to work. Not work at your own office where they immediately graduate to becoming CEOs or directors, but work as a regular employee so that they become more compassionate, they become more professional, and they realize the value of hard work. This is very important for every rich person to do, because what happens is that when you impose some sort of designation on your young children when they don't deserve it, they become a laughing stock. In the process, and this is my last point, when you give them what they don't deserve, it becomes a burden to them. It becomes a burden on them. They cannot deliver. They are frustrated. They are confused. They are terribly insecure. And moreover, they are a laughing stock. So, raising rich kids definitely is a task, but it is not that big a task. As a society, it is important for all of us to realize that as parents, as guardians, we need to raise a society that is kind, that is loving, and that is compassionate. Why? It is only when such things happen, we would not have Tathya Patels happening. We would not have parents like Pragnesh Patel who would be all out on the street trying to defend his son who's killed 9 people. In Gujarati, there is a very vulgar word. This vulgar word is called setting. If you are rich, if you are a parent, ensure that you don't get into this setting group. It, like, all of us have grown and have spent years together, but your child, our children are young. Our young children should realize the value of money, the value of hard work, the value of relationships, so that they know that if there is one Tathya Patel, he cannot just get away by throwing a good connection, his father's name or a police officer's name, even after committing a heinous crime. Because money is not vulgar. What is vulgar is bad raising of your children. Thank you.